Hello, beautiful and awakened souls. Welcome to another episode of the Awakened Souls podcast. I am your host, Devin Brown, a Kundalini activator and spiritual guide. Of course, a great sense of entertainment, hopefully. Today, we are continuing on from last week. Last week, we talked about a starseed. What is a starseed? And how a starseed comes into their power, which is their Kundalini activation. This week, we're going to go into, as promised, the Kundalini activation and what that means. But, so sorry, I was made aware that I left you guys kind of hanging on a cliffhanger. Some of you might have caught it. Some of you might not have. So I was speaking about us as starseeds coming into our power and coming into knowing who we are, and how for myself, one of the ways I truly discovered that I was my own healer was when I had my accident with my horse. And I described the accident, I described what happened, and then I got segued through my little rabbit hole ADHD mind and never went back there. And people are like, well, how did you become your own healer? And it was like, oh, I never actually shared that information. So we're going to use that to kind of dive into Kundalini activation and coming into our power and what that means. So for myself, my spiritual giftings, I can psychically connect to animals. I can see things in other dimensions. I can astral project. I can travel to other worlds. I am able to commune and work with other entities such as dragons and fairies and angels and gods and goddesses of old, the deities of old. Some of them you know, some of them you do not know. Some of them have been lost through history, but I know their names and I know their faces. I am able to look inside of people when I do my energy work. And sometimes this can be in person, this can be virtual, this can be through our quantum circle. And I can see deep in the energy pores of people where they have blockages, what's still holding on, if they have past life things that need healed. And I am able to not only heal, but release that. I see auras. I psychically can talk to people, but also read thoughts and read energies. And just overall, that's just a couple of the things. But one of the things that I can do, which we talked about in my last episode, is heal people even on a physical quantum level with my energy work. And that is not me that is healing them. That is pulling from the source. That is pulling from the creator. That is pulling from the mother, like whatever you want to call your deity of light. Like it's inside of every single one of us, especially as starseeds. Like we were made out of source. Therefore, we are able to access source to become healers. Like that is why we are here. That is our purpose. If you don't, I'm not diving into that. That is not this episode. That is actually last week's episode. So go back and listen to the episode on starseeds. So I talked about I had an accident with my horse and I was getting so frustrated that I could heal all these other people, but I couldn't heal myself. And I had fractured my leg. I had tore my ACL off the bone. I had tore the cartilage under my kneecap in half. I had bone bruising. I had muscle bruising. My leg was so swollen. I had to go in this leg brace. I had to see an orthopedic surgeon who said that I needed surgery, and I opted for no surgery because I am self-employed. I am a single mom. That just wasn't really an option for me. So the only other option was physical therapy as I trained the muscles around my leg to keep my knee stable because I had nothing there holding it together, essentially. And I was getting so frustrated that I couldn't heal myself. And I remember thinking, I have all this power and I can do all these things for other people. Why can't I heal myself? And that night I was going to sleep and I was in that state where I'm asleep, but I'm not quite yet asleep, if that makes sense. Like you're still kind of aware of the outside noises. Like I could still hear the fan running, or I could still, like maybe hear my kids if they were laughing or anything. Like I still was there, but I wasn't there. And as I'm laying in bed, I hear this voice that says, it's your turn to heal. I'm going to heal you now. And I was laying on my stomach and I felt 4 sets of hands hold me down, or 4 hands hold me down. So 2 sets, 2 on the back of my shoulders and 2 on my legs, like one above like my thigh and the other on my calf, holding it down. And I mean, it was legit pressure. And then I had the most searing pain ever, as it felt almost like a needle and thread was pulling through my leg muscles and my tissue and sewing it back together. And I couldn't move. Like, I was pinned down, and I like cried out in pain, like not in a like wake my kids type cry out, but like I knew something was taking place energetically. And I turned around to try and see who it was once I was released and they were gone. But I stood up, and from that day forward, I couldn't even use my brace anymore. It literally hurt to stabilize my leg because my leg was stable. And that was when I was able to start using it as if nothing had ever happened. Like, it still would get sore on me if I did too much at the gym, or if I was on it literally all day, it would swell up a little bit and get a little hot, but I didn't have the pain. I didn't have the instability. It didn't give out on me. And it was literally overnight. Fast forward probably close to a year. I have learned to astral project. I like into more places than I did before. Like, I had already done it occasionally, sometimes accidentally, sometimes through meditation, but I had learned to like very, very purposefully connect to my highest self and go where I'm meant to go in that moment for healing. And I'm sitting there in a meditation, and I was reminded of myself, like when I had felt those hands on me. And my highest self was like, it's time for you to heal yourself now. And I'm just like, what? And I see almost this window open up, and I'm laying on a bed, and it's me sleeping. And I realized, oh my gosh, okay, I'm my own healer. So I said, I'm going to heal you now. And I reached down through this window, and I put my hands on the spaces, like on like two of the spaces that I knew was there. And I started pouring love and light into myself. And then fast forward, but I didn't get to finish. Like, I didn't feel myself finish. But if you remember, I felt 4 sets of hands. This happened a second time, not too long after. Sorry, my cat is trying to grab the cords while I'm recording. This happened not long ago, after, where I did it again. And that made 4 sets of hands. And I realized I was my own healer. And so a Kundalini activation is when you become your own healer. And you have your guides, you have the people that are working with you and working through you and coming with you and all of these things. However, you are waking up to your patterns. You're waking up to what it is that no longer serves you. And you are discovering that starseed activation that you have. Like, you are discovering what gifts you have, and you are moving forward into that. That being said, I'm in the process of flipping through my book that is coming out to you guys very, very soon. I actually want to read a portion of this book to you. And this is a part that I had channeled one of the star mothers for, to explain to you guys what a Kundalini activation actually is. Because, like, it's very hard to explain to somebody who doesn't even know what a Kundalini activation is, like on a spiritual sense what it is, but even more so when you are draped in your own truth. So I apologize. Give me 1 second, guys. I need to use 2 hands as I'm flipping through my big manuscript here, because it's still not in the form of paper in the way that we know paper to be. So all right, here we go. You ready? And like I said, this is from my book, directly from my book. For each person, their awakening is different, yet for all, it is the same. It is where each of what you call and observe as chakras align and come to life. But even more than that, it is where the deep roots of who you are reach down into your life well, into the source of who you are, and allow you to connect directly to yourself, your higher self, your highest self. A Kundalini awakening is when you join us spiritual beings and entities on another plane of existence while simultaneously existing where you are now at this moment. This is not to say that you were not parallel existing before, because you have always existed in multiple truths and realities simultaneously. But it is to say that you stopped and took note of this shift, entering it freely with sight. You can feel the vibrations from other dimensions begin to reverberate through your body. You feel the knowing, the excitement, the love of who they are inside of you. It's the embodiment of all things that once destroyed out of fear and misunderstanding, out of ignorance and unaligned. You don't need to know what your dark night looks like, for as you begin to pursue this journey, it's going to come. You do not need to look for it, but what you do need to do is go forth knowing that as you do, if you want to grow, you must be willing to shift and transform. A Kundalini awakening is remembering yourself. It's coming home to yourself. It's no longer living the lie that you've been programmed into this paradigm to for so long. It's a self-acceptance, a self-love. Many of you hear these words and they ring hollow. You feel like I have yet to give you the answers, yet the answers are already inside of you. You have but to connect to yourself to get them. You numb yourself with drugs, alcohol, and distractions and busyness instead of stopping to see what is inside of you that has already come online. A Kundalini awakening is an acceptance of your truth, the truth of who you are, whether an angel, demon, spirit, traveler, sprite, fairy, alien, and much more importantly, a spiritual being simply having a human experience. It is where you no longer can deny your truth because your inner knowing is stronger than what you know as your ego. It's where you fully embody the soul in the body. I'm going to repeat that again in case you missed that. Your Kundalini activation is where you are going to fully embody your soul inside your body. In the process of an awakening, you feel much like an earthquake that leaves cracks in the sand of the desert, yet out of the sand beauty arrives. Grass grows, leaves come, water flows. You may feel at the deepest and darkest as your life breaks into a million pieces. Where is up? Where is down? Down is up is down. Nothing ever seems to make sense anymore. But as your heart centers begin to beat and as your light begins to flow, as you find yourself fully into who you are, I will be there. Your angels and guides are waiting for you on the other side to walk you through it. We're waiting to bring you to a place that you once called home. Your world is shifting and you can feel this. Some of you look and only see negatives, and even something as beautiful as a Kundalini activation can be viewed as deadly for those who are not willing to be transformed, shifted, broken, and then remade. You quote scriptures, religious texts, inspirational poems, yet they ring hollow to your ears because you see the vibrations now come behind the words of others that are spoken. There are many who have begun to awaken and realize that this journey is too hard. They don't wish to continue on that path. Sometimes this is from fear. Other times it's due to unsurety. You don't know how to get from point A to point B. But the beautiful thing about bringing balance is to allow yourself to flow. Let your feminine and masculine energies intertwine in a way that when you are both strong and powerful, you are also divine and free. This is your Kundalini guidebook. This is what it is to awaken. No way is the right way. You have to find the way that speaks to your soul and your heart. Follow that nudging of both interest and intrigue, and know that it was put in you for a reason. So I know that that's like a mouthful, and I know some of you are probably like, okay, I definitely can't read that book because I don't understand it. I promise in the context of that, because I take it and I break it down and I explain, and I'm going to do a little bit of that here on this podcast. Like, it's a lot easier to understand why when you're in it. But a Kundalini activation, a Kundalini awakening is where you really look at your life and realize that you aren't where you want to be. And I'm not talking about a midlife crisis, though that tends to be when it happens, to be honest. But you look and you say, I don't want to live in this mundane existence anymore. I don't want to live wondering what I'm going to have for dinner. I don't want to live in life without a purpose anymore. I don't want to go day to day. I need to follow this calling and this nudging that is reaching out to me. You feel a draw towards certain things, whether it's stuff in the spiritual, whether it's certain programs or interests. Like you feel drawn to certain things that you really just can't get out of your mind. Some of it might be energy work. Some of it might be sound therapy. Some of it might be healing therapy or certain books. But you start feeling a draw. And then as you follow that draw and you follow that nudging, you start feeling like something needs to change. And as you start giving voice and permission to let yourself change and permission to let yourself see what you want different, you're able to start your activation. And what happens when you start your activation and you start to recognize that you are unhappy, that you are unhealed, that you in essence are broken. There's nothing wrong with being broken, because once you realize you're broken, you can then be remade. It's being broken and saying, I'm fine, I don't need to be fixed, that you can be filled with water and begin leaking all over the place and not really filling your cup the way you should be filling your cup. A Kundalini activation is where you can have symptoms that might on the outside look like you're bipolar, might look like you've done a 360, might look like you're having a midlife crisis, might look like you're going crazy, might even feel like you're going crazy a little bit, especially if you have psychic abilities that are giftings in there. And once you start to connect to the astral and connect to your guides and hearing them speak on a regular basis, hearing them speak clearly on a regular basis, like you can feel like, I think I'm losing my mind. I can hear this so clearly. I can feel this. I can see this. Like, and you feel just like you don't know which way is up and which way is down, just like our guide said. And it's one of those situations where we have to be willing to be broken in this process, to say, I can't do this. I can't, I'm done. And that is braver to stop and say that and then ask for help. Ask for help with your spirit guides. Ask for help with mental health therapists. Ask for help with friends who are already awakened. Ask for help. And if you don't have any, guess what? There are tons and tons and tons and tons of groups out there that exist. I've been feeling like I needed to reach out and find some other support because I just pour out and I needed someone to pour into me. So I got on Facebook and was like, hey, does anybody know of any healing sessions or spirituality minded groups that are coming up? And I ended up going to the most beautiful sound Reiki cranial sacral therapy session all in one that same night. Like, it's a matter of just being willing to reach out to ask for help. And that is part, I think, of the Kundalini activation. It's part cocooning because you want to pull away from everyone you once knew and that knew you as the old you that you no longer align with and you no longer want to be. But then you're able to step into this new place. And as you do, though, your body begins to transform. You begin to activate your crystalline light body. And I talk about this in the book a little bit more. A crystalline light body is essentially a coding that is written into your DNA. It's in the DNA of all of us starseeds. And it is something that causes almost like an electrical impulse to brighten on each of our DNA strands. And it allows the flow and the source and the energy to flow differently through our bodies. Like, we are literally molecularly changing our vibration. Like, we are changing. You'll notice electronics don't work how they should around you anymore. You notice certain crystals respond to you differently. You'll notice that you can connect with anything, whether it is a crystal or the grass or the plants or the animals. Like Mother and Gaia is always there. You hear more clearly. Think of it like a superpower where you are just so much more in tuned to those things around you. But here's the thing. In order to continue your activation and in order to continue to grow, you have to treat your body like the temple that it is. If you're sitting there numbing it with foods that are of a lower vibration, if you're sitting there numbing it with alcohol, if you're sitting there numbing it with junk that you're watching on TV or social media or any of these things, you are going to lower your vibration and not keep it in the place that it needs to be. So a Kundalini activation is essentially a fork in the road. It's a time, just like they said, you begin to wake up and you begin to realize, okay, I need to change. I need to change it all. I need to change how I'm living, what I'm doing, how I'm looking at life, maybe how I'm responding to life, what I'm actually behaving like in life. And you choose to step forward into the new you, or you choose to go so far and you stop, or you choose not to go at all. And it's a choice that every single one of us gets to make. Every single one of us starseeds get to make that choice. And when you have your Kundalini activation, I know for myself personally, I remember when my chakras came online, like I would be laying in bed and I'm doing energy work on myself, and I would literally just twitch with the extra energy that was flowing through my body. And I felt so lost and so alone and so desperate for help because I was so scared of what was coming, which was change. I was scared of stepping forth because I knew I didn't want the life that I had anymore. I didn't want to live a life that wasn't really in alignment with what I believed. I didn't want to live a life that was a shell of who I knew that I could be and what I wanted from life. And a Kundalini activation is coming to your highest self here on this plane and allowing your soul to be the one that lives instead of your physical form. And what I mean by that, I walk around and every day I try and remember that I am the angel that healed myself. I try and remember that I am the activator that heals other people. I try and remember that I am that flow. I am that precious energy. I am the source incarnate. Like I am love. I'm having a human experience, but that human experience does not determine who I am. I am who I am, and that person is love. And it's just one of those situations and one of those things that when you are ready for it, it's going to come. And when you are with other people who have had theirs and you haven't quite reached yours yet, if you continue in their circle, you're going to be activated. But then you get to decide, do you grow and heal and stay in a healing circle, or do you walk away because it's too hard? When you have your Kundalini activation, you may have to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you, that no longer lift you up, that no longer provide the safe space to be who you want to be, or to explore what you want to explore, or to do what you need to do for yourself. You may have to instigate or start or accept in new relationships that are uncomfortable, that go against your conditioning foundation, that have ideas of things that you never would have listened to in the past, that you never would have even responded to or thought about, that you look at now as your future self and say, wow, I'm so glad I did that. Kundalini activation is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, but you'll never regret going through it. And I can tell you that from the other side. If you have a specific question you want answered about the Kundalini activation, I would love to answer it for you. Feel free to leave a comment or shoot me an email. But just know, starseeds, that yours is coming. You don't have a choice. We're here for a purpose. We're here for a reason. And this is that reason. Yeah. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you would like to sponsor my podcast, you can do so on my Patreon website. There is a link in the bio. I'm able to keep this podcast ad-free. I'm going to do this for as long as possible. It's just something that I love. I am not a big fan of advertisements and sponsors. And so my plan is just to bring you guys a good quality episode every week so that you can listen without having to have commercial breaks, without having to fast forward, without getting frustrated because you're losing your space, and just listen and have it uninterrupted conversationally. So you can support $3 a month if you want on Patreon. I also have my Quantum Circle open, and boy, we are going through the energies right now. With the Quantum Circle, every week we do an energy update with a collective tarot reading where the guides tell us what it is that we need to focus on for the week, where our energy needs to lie, and what it is we need to do. And then every 21st of the month, we do a big energy update on what is to come for the next month. Sometimes we pull astrology into this. Sometimes we just do regular energy work. Sometimes we do include tarot, but that's a little bit more of an in-depth session right there. And then the last day of the month, we release an energetic healing and activation. This is a 20 to 30 minute meditation. You sit and you listen to it. It's completely guided. You do not have to be a master at meditation or anything like that. That is where my gifting comes in. I speak to you. My voice will put you into a lovely trance, and you just sit and take it in and prepare yourself for the energies. You can listen to it every single day. You can listen to it once a week. It doesn't matter, but you will get something new out of it every single time you listen. And not only do you get a new one every month, but when you join, you get access to all the ones previously. So we have inner child healings. We have breaking conditioned pattern healings. We have so many different ones because this program has been going on for several months now. So you guys get access to all of those. Back in July, we did move everything to MP3 versus just videos, except for the tarot reading that we do on Monday. We do videos with that, and the energy updates, we do videos with that. But otherwise, the energetic healings and podcasts, and even just the 21st of the month for the energy updates, we are doing MP3s. Like, the feedback was people were trying to listen to it in their cars, and the YouTube videos were just kind of making it where sometimes they weren't able to just get to it. They couldn't do that, but they could easily press play and listen to what it is that I had to say. So that's what we're doing. I would love to see you over there. And as always, my beautiful awakened souls, I hope that you have a wonderful week, and just focus on yourselves. Just truly, truly know you are not alone.